Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna get into some glute specific workouts and I'm gonna share with you 6 of my favorite swear by glute exercises that you need to be doing to grow a bigger booty if that is something that you're interested in. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, make sure you have post notifications turned on, and make sure you're following me on Instagram for daily health, wellness, and fitness tips. Let's go ahead and get into our first exercise of the day. We're gonna start off with the barbell hip thrust, but we're gonna also add a band just around our knees. If you are working out in a garage gym like I am, or if you just don't have access to a hip thrust setup machine, or I don't know what you really want to call that, but like Brett Contreras' hip thruster, then I would highly recommend that you take a adjustable bench and put it in the decline position for you to move your shoulders and your back on, and that's going to be the shoulder elevation that is necessary for a hip thrust. I really like putting the band around my knees, in part because I really hate loading the barbell up with a ton of weight. It just takes a lot of time and then it's a lot of work to break it back down. So adding the band is going to increase tension, allow you to feel your glutes a lot more, and decrease the amount of setup that you'll have to do. So that is a favorite of mine. I typically always, with any glute exercise I'm doing, so starting with these banded hip thrusts and going through every exercise that we're gonna go through later on, I always pause and squeeze very, very hard on that last rep just to really fire everything up. But because this is a hip thrust, you also wanna make sure that on every single rep, you're getting those hips all the way through, tucking that butt back in and tucking the chin in as well. That's gonna help you feel the glutes a lot more than if you didn't do that. So our first exercise of the day is a banded hip thrust. Second exercise we have here is the B stance hip thrust. So it's probably a little bit difficult to see, but what is going on here is my feet are in a staggered position. The leg or the glute that I want to be working is in its regular hip thrusting position. So if you're setting up, just set up like you're going to do a hip thrust, keep the working leg where it is, and then just slide the non-working leg back until your toe is in line with your heel, and then you're gonna thrust from there. This is going to emphasize the right side like I'm doing in the video, but you are gonna be working partially that left side as well. So just keep in mind that when you switch sides, so one set would be right side working and then left side working, and then I would rest. When you move to the left side, it's probably gonna be a lot harder, or at least significantly harder than the first leg was, because the second leg has kind of already worked, being that it's B stance, not single leg. I like the B stance because, again, you don't have to put as much weight on the barbell, which setup and breakdown, those are just annoying to me, so that's something that I like. But I also like that more single leg emphasis. That's usually what gets me sore, and including those in my workouts has really helped my glutes, especially in the last couple of months. So I'm thinking there's something to getting that single leg thrusting work in, as well as having it weighted, not just like doing a burnout single leg. Okay, moving right along, we are now onto the glute bridge, which looks a lot like a hip thrust, except your shoulders are no longer elevated, so shoulders and feet are flat on the ground. Again, this is a favorite exercise of mine because there's not a lot of setup, but for some reason, I am able to really feel my glutes a lot more on the glute bridge than I am a regular hip thrust. I feel a lot of hamstrings on a regular hip thrust. So if you're finding that same situation for yourself, I would highly suggest you try out the glute bridge. Even if you don't have that problem, I would try out the glute bridge because it's just loading a barbell, putting it on the ground, and getting underneath it. Like, the setup is amazing because you can do that at any gym, anywhere you are, pretty much guaranteed. But the glute bridge is a favorite of mine because I can really get that hip extension, really squeeze those glutes, and I just feel my glutes so much more than I do on the hip thrust. So I've been including those for a lot of time now, and I swear by them, I love them. That is the glute bridge. Okay, those first 3 exercises are pretty like big ticket movements, and I typically do those in the beginning of a workout as my major glute thrust pattern movement. I'm gonna move on to now things that are more of a burnout, or are better, in my opinion at least, coupled with something else. You could couple them with the hip thrust, B stance, or the glute bridge, or you could include them in some sort of burnout at the end of your workout, which is always nice to do as well. So we're gonna start off with the extra range of motion, as I am calling it, banded hip thrust. You may also have heard this referred to as the double elevated or just feet and shoulder elevated hip thrust. Whatever you want to call it, we can call it that. I love this movement. The extra range of motion allows me to really feel my glutes at both the bottom and the top of the movement. At the bottom, I really feel a stretch, and at the top, I'm really getting all the way up, really getting a lot of good extension and squeezing the glutes hard. Again, the band helps because you're gonna feel a lot more pressure with having to push against the band. You could do this without a band, but I think that you're going to enjoy it more, you're going to feel it more with a band just above the knees. I like to couple this with seated abductions, which we are showing now. And again, band is just above the knees, sitting flat on the bench. I like to lean back, but I have been leaning back for a long time now, so you can also sit straight up and you can also lean forward. Leaning back is difficult because the glutes are stretched in that position, so you can kind of choose for yourself or just vary it through the different cycles that you have. So right now I'm doing leaning back seated abductions. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll switch to sitting straight up, and then a couple weeks after that, like 4 to 6 weeks later, move to the leaning forward seated abductions. Finally, we have the deficit frog pumps. So basically my feet are in a butterfly position, if you remember that from like dance class or whatever, and they are on top of a plate. You can use whatever you want, but I would assume a 45-pound plate or 2 if you're at a commercial gym, because sometimes they're thin, would be really your best option. I need that deficit to really feel the frog pumps. If my feet are just flat on the floor, I don't feel like there's enough range of motion for me personally to feel it. You might be able to feel it, but I really prefer that, creating that deficit. And then again, you're just bringing the hips up, squeezing at the top, and bringing them all the way back down. I go back down until my glutes just tap the ground, but not that I'm all the way rested on the ground, and then I go right back up, trying to keep the legs wide, because sometimes the knees will start to cave, not cave, but come back in, and you want to keep that as a nice broad butterfly position while you're thrusting up. Definitely don't make eye contact with anyone while you're doing this exercise, or things might get awkward. But if you're looking for that side booty, which personally I definitely am, then these deficit frog pumps are going to be key for you. That wraps up my 6 favorite glute exercises of the moment. I swear by those. I have been doing some sort of thrust pattern every single day I work out now for probably 6 months, and that's really making the largest difference for me. I don't love to hip thrust, but it does pay off, so I can understand that you might be a little timid about hip thrusting, or it might seem like a really awkward thing to do at a commercial gym, but I promise you, no one cares, and if you want to build a bigger booty, the hip thrust is where it's at, so you're gonna want to include that in your workout at least 1-2 times a week. And if you can get some accessory movements in, like the frog pumps or like the extra range of motion banded hip thrusts, then that's gonna help you even more. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope that I gave you a couple more glute exercises to try. If you try any of these exercises out, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Friday for another video. Make sure you're subscribed, have post notifications turned on, and of course, make sure you're following me on Instagram for daily health, wellness, and fitness tips.